I'd like to welcome everyone for coming today. I'm Margie Davey. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County. And I'd like to introduce Oshkosh's mayor, Lori Palmeri.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Before I read our proclamation today, I just wanted to share a couple of brief comments. And thank you all again. You know, I would not be here today standing on the shoulders of a giant such as Carrie Chapman Catt, were it not for the women who helped vote me into office last April 2019. I just want to share something that I found interesting that I did not know before. You know, 6 months before the passing of the 19th Amendment, Carrie Chapman Catt founded the League of Women Voters and said, this mighty experiment, no one could tell in which direction its evolution would go. And here we are. And I'd just like to share a quote from Carrie. In the adjustment of the new order of things, we women demand an equal voice. We shall accept nothing less. I'd like to share this proclamation with you. I'm very honored to do so. Whereas the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which guaranteed the right to vote to all American citizens regardless of sex, was officially certified on August 26, 1920. And whereas today, on August 26, 2020, we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the adoption of the 19th Amendment. And whereas Wisconsin holds a special place in women's suffrage history, as it was the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment on June 10, 1920, and whereas this was the culmination of a decades-long movement for women's suffrage at both state and national levels, and the bold, courageous, and powerful women who fought for the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, achieving a voice in the laws and politics that govern them, deserve special celebration by the city of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And whereas the 19th Amendment was a milestone in women's equality, the right to vote was still not guaranteed to all women, as those denied access to the naturalization process were not citizens and could not vote, and women of color faced discrimination at the polls for decades until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And whereas the fact that today women are active in local, state, and national government and are running for office in unprecedented numbers reminds us that we all follow in the footsteps of these resolute American suffragists. And whereas the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan, grassroots political organization that advocates for informed and active participation in government, has passionately advocated for voting rights for over 100 years. And the League neither supports nor opposes candidates for office or political parties at any level of government. And whereas all eligible voters should be able to cast a ballot confidently, proudly, and without additional requirements that prevent them from voting. Now, therefore, I, Lori Palmeri, Mayor of the City of Oshkosh, hereby recognize and celebrate the significant milestone of the 100th anniversary of the adoption of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Lori. We greatly appreciate that. We also appreciate the Public Library for allowing us to use this gorgeous historic setting. The library will be turning 120 next week. So, yes. And for the last 150 years, women have been fighting for the right to vote. Many have struggled, and here are some of the highlights. In 1832, I'm probably going to do that a lot. In 1832, the first suffrage petition was submitted in the United Kingdom's Parliament. They didn't have the right to vote. In 1948, the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York, called for equal treatment of women and men under the law and voting rights for women. Altogether, in the 50 years before women were allowed to vote at the national level, United States laws were passed in 16 different states. For example, in 1869, Wyoming granted women the right to vote in order to increase their territorial population count so that they would have more representation in Congress. However, when the women didn't vote as the menfolk expected them to, there was an attempt to revoke their vote in 1871. That didn't work. 1893, Elizabeth Piper Ensley, a black woman activist in Colorado, was instrumental in allowing women in Colorado to vote. In California, where many Latinas lived, they ran bilingual campaigns for women's suffrage and included women in 1911. In 1916, the first U.S. Congresswoman, Jeanette Rankin of Montana, was elected. In 1918, think World War I time, President Woodrow Wilson spoke to the Senate, asking the senators to pass the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote, because World War I could not have been fought without the services of women. In 1919, the Senate passed the 19th Amendment, which Wisconsin was the first of 38 states to ratify, and we celebrated that last year. In 1920, Tennessee was the last state to ratify the amendment when a 23-year-old freshman congressman, Harry Byrne, changed his vote from no to yes because his mother wrote him a letter telling him to do so. On August 26th, the 19th Amendment passed, giving the vote to white women. Also in 1920, Jessie Jack Hooper of Oshkosh became the first president of the newly formed League of Women Voters of Wisconsin, and along with Florence Buckstaff, she founded the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County, which Mrs. Buckstaff served as the first president of. Fun fact here is in 1930, the local league celebrated their 10th anniversary at the Athern Hotel, which we no longer have. Many strong women have contributed to the league's mission to educate voters, provide information on candidates, and encourage everyone to vote. Locally, these include Mary Jean Carpenter, Ann Hintz, Carolyn Blassingame, Jan Scalpone, Joan Kading, Kathy Propp, Alma Therese Link, Luann Bird, Peggy Cox, Carol Codner, Cynthia Thorpe, Karen Baining, Ann Marshall, and so many more. Today is Women's Equality Day. It's about celebrating what we all, as Americans, can do to build a better democracy. It's so simple, just vote. 100 years since the 19th Amendment was certified, women are not equal. We do not have equal pay in the workplace, and we are not equally represented in government, not yet. But in the next century, we can change that with our voices and with our votes. As women, we know we've achieved a lot in the past century, but we still have a long way to go to achieve true equality. It's true, we've come a long way, baby, but we've got a bit to go yet. If you want to honor Women's Equality Day, commit to this fight. Celebrate the women who fought for our right to vote by making sure you exercise it. But don't stop there. There is too much at stake this year to be silent. We must participate in our own democracy. We must demand that our voices are heard. And that means we must vote, and we must help others to do so also. Voting is our constitutional right, and it's our power as we the people. It's how we defend our country and how we defend our democracy. When we don't exercise that right, democracy may wither and die. Help it grow. Don't let it wither. Vote. Thank you all for coming, and I do hope you're all registered to vote. Maybe you've already ordered your absentee ballot or your vote by mail ballot. It's the same thing. And be sure and exercise that right. Thanks so much.